So AMD's top-of-the-line card, the 6900 XT, just launched this week. As most of you know, it's supposed to go head-to-head with NVIDIA's best, the RTX 3090, while still undercutting it in price by $500. And as always, the number one question we get, especially when there's a big difference in price like that, is, should I buy it? And if not, what should I buy instead? The very short answer is, gamers and even content creators should probably skip this card. If you want to know why, let's dive into the details, and then I'll give you our recommendation of what to get instead. We'll start with 4K performance. Across the 11 games that we tested using our standard benchmarking system, the 6900 XT beats the 3090 in 3 games, roughly ties it in another 3, and then loses to the 3090 by more than 5% for the rest. If you take the average of all our benchmark results, the RTX 3090 outperforms the 6900 XT by about 9%. Now, when you drop down to 1440p, the 6900 XT does turn in a better performance. It matches or even slightly surpasses the 3090 in some games, and when you look at the average of all our game benchmarks, the 3090 leads by a much slimmer 2%. When Smart Access Memory is turned on, the 6900 XT's performance does get a boost across the board, and that helps it gain several victories over the 3090 as compared to our standard tests. Turning SAM on also narrows the gap a little in average performance at 4K, shrinking NVIDIA's lead to 8.5% versus the 9% on our standard test bench. I will note that because I'm giving a very condensed version of performance here, the average doesn't quite show the hit or miss nature of using SAM. In some games, like Horizon Zero Dawn, where the margin wasn't big to begin with, SAM helps give the 6900 XT the edge. But in other games, like Strange Brigade, the performance difference is more like a canyon that just can't be filled. As for ray tracing performance, the lack of an AMD version of DLSS really hurts the 6900 XT. You can only play ray trace games at 1440p on it. If you want to play at 4K, you'll have to make significant compromises on graphics settings. For noise, power draw, and temperature, the 6900 XT wins in the first 2 areas as AMD promised, but understandably underperforms the 3090 in the third. The card does run very quietly, and it consumed 73 watts less than the 3090 under load. But its smaller size means higher temps. While the 3090 coasted along at 68 degrees Celsius, the 6900 XT ran at a toasty 83 degrees. Say what you will about the 3090's massive size, but it runs stone cold. So finally we come to our recommendation on what to buy. Well, in all of its marketing, AMD pushes the 6900 XT as a no-compromises gaming card. But as you've seen from our benchmarks, that's not what the numbers say. NVIDIA largely retains its crown at 4K. At that resolution, the 3090 tends to be faster, and it also supports ray tracing. It still wins by a small amount at 1440p too. If you move down the stack and pit the 6900 XT against the 6800 XT and the RTX 3080, you only see a 6.6 lift in performance at 4K and a 4.1 lift at 1440p. That is objectively better, but not enough to clearly outstrip and outshine those cards, especially since the 6900 XT costs $350 more than the 6800 XT. Gaming isn't the only aspect to consider when evaluating these high-end graphics cards either. On the content creation side of things, the 6900 XT still sits in an awkward spot. The 3090 leads in bleeding-edge content creation after all. With its 24 gigabytes of memory, it can handle 8K content, and better software support exists for NVIDIA's CUDA cores and optics API. And while we didn't have time to run content creation benchmarks for the 6900 XT, I'll just note that the 6800 XT offers the same 16 gigabytes of memory, making it equally capable of 4K content workloads. AMD has indicated that the 6900 XT should overclock the best among all the Radeon 6000 series GPUs, but We don't like to count on that because of the random luck of the silicon lottery. We consider any overclocking headroom a nice bonus, but not a factor in our evaluation. All that said, AMD has a spectacular card here, but it's hard to recommend. To be clear, we're not saying it sucks, not in the least. The 6900 XT proves that AMD is once again able to spar at the high end. Given how many years that hasn't been the case, this GPU marks an important milestone. But when you all ask us this question, should I buy the 6900 XT, you're not asking if you should pay for an achievement. You want to know what will make the most of your hard-earned money. And so, even though the 6900 XT is a superb 1440p high refresh rate card and also a respectable 4K card, most gamers should still buy the 6800 XT and save several $100s. Alternatively, if you're an enthusiast and price is no object, or if you're a bleeding edge content creator, then the RTX 3090 is your better bet and you're not going to care about that additional outlay of $500. Of course, just to reiterate, you are not wasting money on a 6900 XT. So if you want to fly your flag for AMD, or you're at the mercy of whatever is actually available at stores, you don't need to feel bad if you pick one up. So that does it for this video. If you would like more details on our testing setup and the individual results for each game in our testing suite, you can find my colleague Brad Charkis's excellent review on the 6900 XT on PCWorld.com, along with other information like ultra-wide benchmarks. For any questions, comments, or suggestions, leave them below or catch us live during one of our weekly Full Nerd shows and ask then. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll catch you in the next one.